If the producers will produce the merchandise, I'll guarantee you, us salespeople are absolutely going to get out there and sell.
It's parallel to you right now.
If the producers will produce the merchandise, I'll guarantee you, us salespeople are absolutely going to get out there and sell.
Zig Ziglar is the salesman's salesman, the man who, by his own stunning example, single-handedly turned selling into the proud profession.
Yes, I'm proud to sell, because you see, our land has been developed because we are a land of salespeople.
A small-town boy who eked out a living selling cookware before making it to the top. Zig will show you how his methods can work for you.
We really haven't done a very good job of letting people know what the sales profession is all about, but we're correcting that right now.
For nearly 20 years, Zig Ziglar has conducted successful motivational sales seminars worldwide. Known as the Master Motivator, he has turned his one-man operation into a large Dallas-based corporation.
Selling in the professional sense is uncovering a need and then bringing to that individual the products or the goods or the services which fill that specific need.
As salesman extraordinary, Zig Ziglar will tell you how to charm your client, persuasively present your product, and close the deal.
Regardless of what it is that you do, you enjoy the high standard of living that you do because salespeople like me are out there selling.
Let's join Zig Ziglar now as you have a front row seat at his most successful sales seminar and learn how to make selling your proud profession.
Got redheads and everybody. Now, I mentioned redheads because I'm married to a redhead. My wife's a decided redhead. Meaning simply that one day she just decided she's going to be a redhead. Yeah. What a delight to see so many ladies here. You know, not only do ladies dress audiences up so much, but realistically, women dress so much more practical than men. Like this lady down home, this bum came up to her on the street and said, "Ma'am," said, "would you give me $1 for a sandwich?" She said, "Well, not until I've seen the sandwich." Now, now that's practical. Like the two ladies talking, one of them said, "Well, I didn't want to marry him for his money, but that is the only way I can get it." Now, you see, that's practical. And what I'm going to try to be this evening, what I'm going to try to be is practical myself. I want to talk with you about the greatest profession on the face of this earth. I want to talk to you about the sales profession. I believe
that heavens themselves conspire in your favor.
I just happen to believe that America is the greatest land on this earth because we are a land of salespeople. We're certainly not the greatest because we're the biggest, because we're not. Russia, China, Canada, Brazil, they're all bigger than we are. We're not the greatest because we have the most people. Why, India, Russia, and China got lots more people than we have. We're not even the biggest because we have the most, or the greatest because we have the most natural resources, though we've certainly been abundantly blessed in that area. but then so has India, for that matter, much of Africa, parts of Russia, Canada, Brazil, all rich in natural resources. No, we're not the greatest because we have the most people or the most land, but we're the greatest because essentially we are a land of salespeople. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I, for one, am tremendously excited about being a salesperson. The truth of the matter is, America was discovered by a salesman. Not by any stretch of imagination could you accuse Christopher Columbus of being a navigator. Now, if you'll remember, folks, that dude is looking for India. Now, he missed it 12,000 miles. Not by any stretch of imagination could you accuse him of being a navigator, could you? And you might say, well, yeah, but was he a salesman? Well, let me tell you the story. He was an Italian in Spain. Now, that's way out of his territory. He's only got one prospect to call on, and if he misses a sale, he swims home. Now, you tell me, was he a salesman or not? He called on Isabella, told her the story. She says, Chris, it sounds like a good idea, but man, $12,000 for 5 little old ships? See, a lot of people don't realize they started out with 5, but 2 of them did go over the side. You might as well know now. I tell folks I'm like a cross-eyed discus thrower. I don't set any records, but I do keep the crowd alert. And, you know, and I think that's important. He told Isabella the story, you know, and she related to it. She said, you know, it sounds wonderful, Chris, and if I could raise the $12,000, I'd buy the idea in a minute. But we don't have any money. How many of you salespeople have ever had a prospect tell you that they'd buy if they had the money, but they just don't have the money? Well, Chris looked at her and he said, look, Izzy, now understand, I was not there, so I'm not certain this is verbatim, but you got that string of beads hanging around your neck. Now let's take them out of the pawn shop. We'll hock them. We'll finance this deal. Well, your history books will clearly tell you they used some unusual methods to raise the money to finance the trip. Then when they started sailing in those 3 little ships, Columbus really had a sales job because those sailors thought they were going to go over the side. I mean, literally. And every single day he had to sell in order to sail. And as a matter of fact, he had agreed to turn back towards the homeland if they had not discovered or sighted land within a certain time. And just 8 hours before the crucial decision was made is when they discovered the land. And the call came forth, land ho! And the most profitable sales call in history came to a close. And then Columbus made the mistake that a lot of salespeople make in our world today. He did not service the account. He did not keep on selling. And a man named Americus Vespucius entered the picture, and he serviced the account. We did not become the United States of Columbus. We became the United States of America. America was populated by a salesman. Sir Walter Raleigh toured the coffee houses of London, selling those ignorant, fearful, superstitious people on the idea that they should leave the relative security of their homeland and come into this vast, uncharted, foreboding, weird wilderness that lay beyond the sea. It was a tremendous sales job. We were freed by a salesman. Do you really understand the tremendous recruiting job that George Washington had to do? He had to convince the farmers, the merchants, the backwoodsmen, the shipbuilders, the landowners, and all of the people to leave their home, go to war against the most powerful nation on the face of this earth, largest army, most powerful navy, and he had to be honest and say, now look, if we win this war, there's no way I'm going to be able to pay you. And if we lose, they're going to hang you to the highest tree. Now, how many of you sales folks do any recruiting? Can I see your hands, please? Now, I want you to visualize this scene. You're trying to recruit somebody to sell with your company, and you have to tell them, look, if you make the sale, I don't have any money, I'm not going to be able to pay you. But if you miss the sale, we're going to line you up at daylight, and we're going to fire away. Now, that was the job Washington had to do, but he did the job. You know, we won our independence. As soon as we won our independence, Alexander Hamilton, the first Secretary of the Interior, or the Treasurer rather, came to Mr. Washington and said, let's get the Congress to appropriate some money so that we might study the methods the British have used to establish their agents and factories around the world. The money was appropriated. I don't know if you've ever thought about this or not, but as you realize, ladies and gentlemen, for the first 168 years that America was populated, we had only moved to the Appalachian Mountains. Did you realize that with the appropriation of this money, we did set up trading posts, and just 30 years later, we were already to the Pacific Ocean? Yes, I'm proud to sail, because you see, our land has been developed because we are a land of salespeople. Now, at this point, you might have a question in your own mind. Well, Zig, if that's the case, if we as salespeople have done so much, why is it that salespeople are held in such low esteem? Why is our reputation not better? Why is it that people do not respect the profession, more than they do today? Well, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that one of the reasons that only 2% of the graduating seniors from college today are interested in going in the profession of selling is because we have not done our thorough job as salespeople. Basically, there are 4 reasons why the profession of selling is not regarded as high as it ought to be and is fast becoming, I hasten to add. Number 1, did you realize what the dictionary says about the word sell? The dictionary says it's a fraud. It's a hoax. It's right there in the dictionary. Can you believe such a thing like that? We ought to sue those rascals for writing such things as that. Number 2, we've done a lousy job of selling the profession of selling. Now, we've sold our goods, we've sold our products, we've sold our services, but we really haven't done a very good job of letting people know what the sales profession is all about. But we're correcting that right now. And you're part of the correction, because by the time we get through here, you're going to have that jumping up and down enthusiasm about the profession of selling. See, a lot of people are tremendously proud of their company, awfully proud of their products, their goods, or their services, but for whatever reason, they seem to be a little hesitant to let people know they're in the profession of selling. We just simply have not done the sales job. Now, there's the 3rd reason why a lot of people don't really understand what the profession of selling is all about and why they have so many erroneous ideas. A few years ago, a fellow named Arthur Miller wrote a play. He called it, of all things, Death of a Salesman. And they feature some dude named Willie Loman, the perennial loser. And a lot of people have come to identify that with the sales professional, and that is absolutely weird, wild, insane, way out. Doesn't make any sense. They showed that thing on Broadway as a play. They made a movie out of it a long time ago, and I thought they'd finally put the deal to bed. And then they showed it on television, and then they showed it again on television, and then they revived the play on Broadway, and now they're doing the same thing again. I could not believe. Why don't they make a play entitled Death of a Doctor or Death of a Lawyer, or something like that? It'd make even more sense. Absolutely. And then you take the music man, a fellow named Harold Hill, the consummate con man. The story behind him. And a lot of people have gotten these weird ideas, therefore, from these presentations about what the profession of selling really is all about. And then there's a 4th reason, and that's this old Yankee product. Well, let me ask you this way. The product you sell, how many of you sell one that solves a problem? Can I see your hand, okay? How many of you believe that when you sell a product that solves a problem, that you deserve a profit? Can I see your hand, okay? How many of you believe that when you sell two products that solve two problems, that you deserve two profits? Can I see your hand, okay? Now, what you're saying is that the more problems you solve, the more profit you deserve. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, because as the late Fred Herman would say, that ain't sanitary. But that really, that really is what you're saying, isn't it, okay? Now, how many of you have been in the profession of selling for as long as a year? Okay? How many of you still got all of the money you've earned in the last 12 months? Okay? How many of you have got customers whom you sold a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, who are still using and enjoying the benefits of what you sold them a year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago? Can I see your hands? Now, here's a very important question. Who made the best deal? Was it you or the customer? The customer, all right? Then is the sales process something you do to somebody or something you do for somebody? Isn't it for somebody? See, I fought in the ring 2 years. Matter of fact, the only reason I quit was because of my hands. The referee kept stepping on them. But one of the things the coach used to always tell us when he'd send us out, he said, now Zig, the first round, spar around, find out where the opponent is weak and capitalize on the weakness. In football, the coach says to the quarterback, find out where they're weak and exploit that weakness. In tennis, the instructions are find out where the opponent is weak and exploit the weakness. In the world of selling, we find out where the opponent, that is the customer, is weak, that is, has a need, and strengthen that need by selling them our goods, our products, and our services. You see, it really is true, folks. Selling is something you do for somebody and not to somebody. And that's our role. That's what we want to simply bring to you. What is the truth about what this profession really is all about? Because a lot of times people say, okay, Zig, you got me sold that the selling profession is a marvelous profession. Now tell me the truth about these sales people and tell me what the salesperson receives as a result of doing all of this selling and all of this serving. Basically, in my judgment, the salesperson is the ultimate free person. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. You see, the truth of the matter is you're the chairman of the board, you're the president, you're the secretary and treasurer, you're the chief executive officer, you're the administrator, and oh yes, you're the janitor too. I mean, as salespeople, we do the whole bit, don't we? But the nice thing about it is you can get up any morning you want to because you occupy all of those positions. You can get right in front of that mirror, give that big old grin, you know, like a fella I saw the other day, the only guy I've ever seen who could eat a banana sideways. I mean, listen, that guy was grinning. I mean, he really was. Well, you can get in front of that mirror and, you know, you can look yourself right in the eye and say, you're such a nice guy or you're such a nice girl. You deserve a raise. And the board just met. The vote was unanimous. The raise will become effective just as soon as you are. I mean, you see, the nice thing about this profession of selling is that we do have that ultimate freedom. Now, when we talk about ultimates, also in my judgment, it's the ultimate security in the world of selling is where you're going to find it. As you might recall, in the last recession, you know, the newspapers and the television and the radio have predicted 18 of the last 2 recessions. I mean, they seem to be right on the target, as my good friend Don Hudson would say. But you know, when you analyze what they really say, when you look at the last recession, for example, there were some pilots and attendants who lost their job. There were some executives, some builders, some manufacturers who lost their job. There were second secretaries and stenographers and file clerks who lost their job. There were teachers and superintendents who lost their job. There were a lot of people who lost their jobs. These were honest, sincere, dedicated, hard-working, intelligent, committed people. They lost their jobs not because they were not committed, not because they were not productive, but they lost their jobs because of the economy that we experienced. Now I challenge you, name me one honest, sincere, dedicated, hard-working, productive salesperson who lost their job during the recession. Ultimate security. Ultimate security. Absolutely. I'll never forget, I was doing a sales training seminar in Atlanta, Georgia. And these two young men came up to me and they said, you know, we'd like to get our money back on the seminar. And I said, what's the problem? They said, well, we just got fired from our job. And we have no need for sales training if we don't have something to sell. And I said, well, let me ask you guys a question. Do you like to sell? They said, oh, yeah, we love to sell. Well-trained, and they were good-looking young men, 25, 26, 27 years old, sharply dressed, you know. They said, we just had a personality conflict with the boss. I said, well, would you like to have another job in the world of selling? They said, we sure would. I said, you come on into the meeting, and I'll have you 25 job offers before you leave out here tonight. Is that a fair deal? They said, it's a fair deal. And then that night, I asked the question, how many of you, well, I'll ask you, how many of you folks here tonight are in the world of selling and you're recruiting or hiring salespeople? Can I see your hand? Now, let me ask you a question. How many of you have an opening right now for an honest, sincere, dedicated, conscientious, hard-working, productive salesperson? Can I see your hand? They literally had more job offers than they could even remotely consider for at least the next 2 weeks. Now, why is that? Simply because a salesperson has the greatest security in the world. General Douglas MacArthur said that security is the ability to produce. And my friends, if you've got that ability to produce in the world of selling, I can absolutely guarantee you, you really do have that security. Now, you know, when we do have recessions, we deal with them in different ways. For example, in the business community, in the regular business structure, you know how they deal with recessions and declines and drops in business. They get all of the people together, and the president of the company, you know, gets on his best sad look, and he wears his sad suit, you know, and he makes this little brave speech about, we've got some tough times ahead, but we're going to tough it out. I mean, we're going to tighten our belt. We're going to cut the lights off early. I'm sorry, we're going to have to let a few people in this department go, and a few people in this department go, and a few people in the other department go, and we're really going to have to be on this austerity program, but we are going to tough it out. And that's the way they deal with the recession. Now, when sales organizations are confronted with that situation, they call another big meeting. They get all of the folks together and say, now, folks, you know, we hear this talk about this recession, but we have figured out a way to deal with it. We are all just going to have to work real hard to reduce our sales, and that's the way we'll solve the problem. Isn't that the way they generally handle it? Or do they get everybody together and they say, hey, you've heard all of this baloney about a recession. Let me tell you our answer to that. Man, we're going to put on a sales contest like you have never heard of before in your entire lifetime. We're going to put up prizes like you cannot believe. We're going to involve here some motivational training programs and some sales training programs, and we're going to have some incentives here that'll absolutely boggle the imagination. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. We're going to get out there and we're going to show them where a recession is. We know business is never either good or bad out there. Business is either good or bad right here between your own two ears. And if you're thinking and stinking, your business is going to be in the same shape. We're just going to give all of you a little checkup from the neck up, and we're going to go out there and we're going to knock them dead, and we're going to sell, sell, sell. Now let me ask you a question. During the last recession, whenever it was, how many of you actually sold more during the recession than you sold before the recession? Can I see your hand? In the world of selling, an absolutely incredible thing. Yes, indeed. The salesperson really is an unusual individual. Do we make money? How many of you read U.S. News and World Report? Can I see your hand? About a little while ago, in one of the issues of U.S. News, they had a fascinating article in there. You know what the article said? It said that more salespeople are millionaires than doctors. Now, I don't know how that gets to you, but I kind of say, hey, what about that? We make more money than those dudes make. What about that? just last week of addressing a sales organization, the average income was over $70,000 a year, or in that neighborhood, and that's one more really nice neighborhood, yes it is, you know. I talk to salespeople all the time who their first year in the business make $20,000 and $30,000. I've seen them who make $100,000, $200,000. As a matter of fact, years ago, Charles Schwab, who really was the master salesman, and Diamond Jim Brady, those dudes made $1 million a year selling over 100 years ago. An amazing thing, this profession of selling. Yes, there is a substantial amount of income possibilities there. But you know what else? The Cox report revealed here about 2 years ago that in the world of selling, we're the ones who supply by far the biggest majority of the corporate officers. Now, many years ago, it was the salespeople, and then they drifted into the accountants and the attorneys, and they made the corporate officers out of them. But in the last 5 years, and the trend is now on a runaway path, they are realizing that what they really need running the organization is the optimistic, positive thinking outlook of the sales organization and the salesperson running that organization. They need somebody so optimistic they'd go after Moby Dick in a rowboat and take the tartar sauce with them. I mean, basically, you know, that's the kind of individual that they are looking for. Yes, it's great to be a salesperson. Now, hopefully, I've exploded a lot of the myths about the profession of selling and what the salesperson himself or herself really earns. But the question comes up, who is the best salesperson? What type individual or personality makes the best salesperson? For years and years, the general public has been led to believe that it's the extroverted, happy-go-lucky, backslapping, hail fella, well-met, joke-telling kind of an individual who makes the best salesperson. I'm glad you're seated because this might shock some of you. But if we were to divide this audience right here into two groups, one group are all introverts and the other group are all extroverts, I got news for you. The introverts will outsell the extroverts 100 times out of 100. That's right. Now that probably shocks you. Now that doesn't mean that maybe the best salesperson might not be an extrovert. They could well be. But I'm talking about over the long haul. Now why is that? And incidentally, let me hasten to add, the introverts in many cases have acquired some of the characteristics of the extrovert. I mean, they've learned to be a little more outgoing, a little broader smile, a little more enthusiasm, and a little better handshake and this kind of thing. But I'm talking about the nature of the individual. Why would the introvert make the better salesperson? There's several reasons for it. First of all, it is because the introvert is far more likely to be better organized. And they're better students. They study the procedures and the techniques. They're not as likely to sell by the, quote, seat of their pants. They will follow the procedures which are there. Number two, they're more detail-oriented and, incidentally, more people-oriented. They're far more inclined to ask questions to uncover the needs of the prospect and find out what the prospect needs instead of trying to roughshod run over them and dominate them with personality and tell them all about the wonderful merits of their merchandise without finding, first of all, if their needs will be met by what they're selling. Third thing about introverts is, realistically, folks, they're more introverts than they are extroverts. And so they have more people to relate to as far as the process of selling is concerned. So what can those who are extroverts do about it? The same thing that introverts can do. You can acquire the training, the characteristics, and the habits of the introvert, just as the introvert needs to acquire some of our characteristics. And yes, people can definitely do that. It's probably going to shock most of you when I tell you this, because all you've seen me here is in front of a group of folks, and I'm laughing and I'm talking real loud and I'm bouncing up and down, and I exude a lot of energy and a lot of confidence and a lot of enthusiasm. So when I tell you this, it's probably going to shock you. But I too am an introvert, very much so. Now you might think I'm the loudest loudest introvert you've ever seen in your life. But emphatically, I am an introvert. I have simply acquired some of the characteristics of the extrovert. You see, you're not stuck with the way you are. One of the most exciting things I can tell you is that you can change. I can tell you that you're what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. You can change what you are and you can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. And the beautiful thing about the profession of selling is you have an opportunity to be with and around the optimistic, the positive thinkers, the people who are encouraging and building you up and helping you to do more of the good things of life. When you start talking about the salesperson and the kind of individual involved in it, I think one of the most exciting reports I've ever read was put together by the Forum Corporation out of Boston, Massachusetts. They did a considerable study on 341 salespeople. 173 of these salespeople were the top-notch producers. I mean the super productive salespeople. 168 of them were average salespeople. Now, all of them had been selling at least 5 years, so we can eliminate the rookie factor. They came from 11 different companies, 5 different industries. They sold everything from petrochemical, banking, life insurance, real estate, and 1 or 2 other things. But in this analysis, they discovered that from a pure sales knowledge, sales skill point of view, that the 173 top salespeople and the 168 average salespeople all had almost exactly the same sales skills. Each group knew exactly how to get prospects. Each knew how to get appointments. Each knew how to demonstrate features and benefits. Each knew how to handle objections. Each knew how to close the sales. But there was a dramatic difference in the results because there was one factor that the super salespeople had. And that one factor that the other ones did not have in as large a quantity was this word called trust. Now, my selling friends listen real good. As I often tell people, this is profound. What they found is this: people don't buy based on what you tell them. They do not buy based on what you show them. They do buy based on what you tell them and what you show them that they believe. Pure and simple, which they believe. Now the question is, who do they believe? It's an old-fashioned answer. They believe the good guys and the good guys. Those who are morally sound, who have honesty and character and integrity as the regular tools in their sales arsenal. You see, the most important part of the sales process is the salesperson. Very important. Now, you see, that kind of shoots the myth that a lot of people have about the salesperson. The career salesperson understands a lot of things. For example, we learn some things about human nature that helps us deal with our wives or our husbands or our children or our neighbors or somebody like that. For example, as salespeople, on occasion, we do have folks who are a little rude to us. How many of you have ever had a prospect who was rude? Maybe even mean, a little ornery? Would you believe downright nasty? Well, you see, one of the things, not often, fortunately, but it does happen. One of the things we as salespeople learn and understand is this: when somebody is mean and ugly to us, we learn to understand it is not because they want to hurt us, but rather it is because they themselves are hurting. You see, once we understand that, then we can deal not only with them more effectively, but also with our families and our friends and those whom we love. I believe beyond any reasonable doubt that in America, if every policeman, if every politician, if every school teacher, if every civil service worker, if every individual on any kind of payroll anywhere, if they had to go to a real gung-ho sales meeting every Monday morning before they started walking their beat or delivering the mail or doing whatever job they do, I believe we would have an infinitely better, happier, more excited, producing America. How many of you would agree with that observation? Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, everything is selling and everybody is a salesperson. Whether you're a dentist, a doctor, a preacher, a teacher, a coach, a child, a music minister, doesn't make any difference what it is that you do. Everybody is a salesperson. Let me share a couple of examples with you of what I'm talking about. When I was between the 11th and 12th grades, during World War II, I went to junior college so I could pick up some extra classes so I could get in the Naval Air Corps. All right? Now, I had to pick up an extra course in history in order to graduate, and so I would be free then the following my senior year to take a lot of extra math and science. Well, I didn't want to take American history. What possible good is it going to do me, to learn something that happened 100 years ago or 200 years ago? But I had to learn it, so I was going to go in there, and I was at least going to pass. But don't think I'm going to try to remember it. I'll just transfer the knowledge from the teacher to my mind to the pad, and then I'll get out of there and they'll end it. But the teacher threw me a curve. He was Coach Joby Harris at Hines Junior College in Jackson, Mississippi. And you talking about a salesman, folks. He was a salesman. He spent that entire first period selling me on why I had to learn my history. He really put the story on me. He also sold me that as an individual, if I had any ability that permitted me to do more than support my family, that I had a moral obligation to my fellow human being and my community to donate some of my services for the betterment of mankind. I walked out of that classroom that day a history major. Only subject I made consistent A's in throughout the time I was in college. What I do today in all of the activities outside of my actual business was directly, emphatically influenced by that salesman, a school teacher, Coach Joby Harris. Everything is selling. I'll never forget when our second daughter was born. Our first child was 3 years old at the time. And I'd been out on the road not long after our baby came home from the hospital. I'd been out on the road and I got stuck. There was a snowstorm and I spent the night in a Greyhound bus, fortunately, on the side of the road. When I got in the next morning, I was exhausted. There was about 10 inches of snow on the ground, and I'd no sooner walked in and just had my top coat and my gloves and my hat off when the redhead said to me, "Well, honey, we got to go to the store. We need some things." So I reluctantly put all the gear back on, and my 3-year-old said, "Daddy, I want to go." I said, "Oh, Susie," I said, "the weather's too bad. It's too cold and wet, and I won't be gone long." But she said, "Daddy, I'll be so lonely." I said, "Oh, Susie, you won't be lonely." I said, "Your mother's here, the maid's here, your baby sister is here." I said, "You won't be lonely." She looked right at me and she said, "But Daddy, I'll be lonely for you." I don't need to tell you, she went to the store with me. You see, the truth of the matter is everything is selling. The third example, at our church, we recently got a new music minister. Now, please understand that I've got the kind of voice that prompted Mitch Miller to write me a personal letter asking me not even to bother to sing along with. And I want you to understand it. My own children asked that I not sing in church. But last Sunday was our first Sunday, and this minister had the congregation so excited. He sold them so much on participating. Now, he knows his music too, but he had us so gung-ho that for the first time in my life, I actually enthusiastically got involved in the singing process. Everything, ladies and gentlemen, is selling. I mean, everything is selling, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so excited about it. The question might come up, well, what role does selling play in the economy? Well, I can tell you this. Several years ago, the Secretary of Commerce of the United States said this. He said that what we need in America today is 1 million more salespeople, professional salespeople. If you ever really stopped to figure what happens when you make a sale? Now, when you make a sale, let me ask you, how many of you write your order on an order form or an order blank? Can I see your hands, please? Okay? Now, when you make that sale, do you understand, do you realize fully that the order pad you wrote it on did not start out as an order pad? It started out as a tree. And you're the person who paid those people who went out in the woods and cut that tree down when you got out there and made the sale. And then a whole bunch of people hauled that to the paper mill, and you're the person who paid those people to haul that to the paper mill when you got out there and made the sale. Now, in the paper mill, you see, there are hundreds of people manufacturing that tree in a paper, and you're the person who paid those people to manufacture that tree in a paper when you got out there and made the sale. But it goes so much further than that. You see, when you made a sale, you made a profit on that sale. And if you're lucky, your manager made a profit. And if you're real lucky, your company made a profit. That's the way you stay in business, you know. And so you take part of your profit, you go down to the store and you buy a can of beans. And in essence, the grocerman says, if you're going to buy my beans, I got to get some more. He goes to the wholesaler and said, need more beans. Wholesaler said, if you're going to buy my beans, I got to get some more. He goes to the canner and said, need more beans. Canner said, if you're going to buy my beans, I got to get some more. He goes to the farmer and said, need more beans. Farmer said, if you're going to buy my beans, I got to get some more. And to do that, I got to raise them. To raise them, I got to have a new tractor because the one I got's worn out. He goes to Emma dealer and said, hey, I got to have a new tractor. Emma dealer said, if you're going to buy my tractor, I got to get another one because these are all we've got. He goes to the factory and said, hey, got to have new tractors. And the factory said, if you're going to buy our tractors, we got to manufacture some more. To do that, we got to bring in iron, copper, plastic, steel, aluminum, lead, zinc, spark plugs. Well, we got to set up factories all over the world. And all of that happened because one day you got out there and made a sale. And that's what you ought to tell folks. Why am I excited about the profession of selling? I'm excited about the profession of selling, ladies and gentlemen, because, as I said earlier, I believe it is the most secure profession on the face of this earth. If my son were to come to me and say, Dad, I want to get into something that is absolutely secure, what would you suggest as being the most secure thing on in our country? Without hesitation, I would say, well, son, you ought to get in the world of selling. But suppose my son were to say to me, but wait a minute, Dad, don't most salespeople work on a commission? And I would say, yes, son, salespeople are just like everybody else. Everybody works on a commission. But Dad, I thought your secretary, for example, had a salary. Oh, she does, son. She's on a salary. And as long as she's productive, she will continue to receive the salary. Now, when she's no longer productive, what's going to happen to the salary? That's right. It's going to go. See, I don't care whether you're president of the company or even the president of the United States. If you don't do like you're supposed to do, they'll get you. And you full well know what I'm talking about, don't you? Now, you see, the beautiful thing about the world of selling, I would say to my son, is it's one of the few professions that I know of that is absolutely not prejudiced. You see, that order doesn't care whether you're white or black or brown. It doesn't care whether you're female or male. It doesn't care whether you're old or young. It doesn't care whether you're educated or uneducated. Doesn't care whether you're introvert or extrovert. When you come bringing the orders in, ladies and gentlemen, and they start writing those checks, it's based on your performance, not the color of your skin, not your sex, not your religious beliefs, not anything else. It is the most fair profession that I have ever seen in my life. I love to sell. Now we've got, oh, go ahead, I've still got time. There's an awful lot of selling we still need to do. For example, in our society today, did you realize that 42% of the time spent on jobs is wasted? That's right. I was talking to Dr. Tor Dahl, time management and productivity expert, internationally respected at the University of Minnesota. I said, Dr. Dahl, and when we were chatting, and it was a lengthy discussion, I said, I've read this figure, but I have difficulty believing that much time is wasted. He said, well, Zig, when you count people coming in late and leaving early, extended coffee breaks, unusually long phone conversation, too many trips to the restroom, taking time off to smoke those cigarettes, the gossip that goes on around a lot of these places, too long at lunch, writing those personal letters and all, he says actually 42% is a conservative figure. What we need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is sell everybody on doing their very best. When we sell that idea, this presentation. Around our country, there are certain organizations which are on strike in various plants and mills and institutions and so forth. But let me tell you to think about this. If you ever have any doubts about your validity as a profession and what you do as a person, I want you to think about this. Did you realize that if everybody in America who sold anybody anything under any circumstances, whether it was a piece of pie, a loaf of bread, a can of beans, a gallon of gas, a life insurance policy, a home, some pills from the drugstore, a suit of clothes, some hair shampoo, a necklace around your neck, or a microphone around your neck, if everybody in America who sells anybody anything were to go on strike just for 24 hours, did you realize we'd be thrown in a recession, ladies and gentlemen, that it would take us months and months to recover from? The damage to our economy would be absolutely incredible. You see, what I'm saying is the profession of selling is such a marvelous, marvelous profession. I'm so proud to be a part of it. And I hope that the next time anybody says anything remotely derogatory about this profession of selling, if they get a little negative and say something about those salespeople, I hope you will smile, be very gentle, and be very loving. But look them right in the eye and say, let me tell you something, friend. You enjoy the incredibly high income that you do. Whether you're the postman or the postmaster, whether you are the teacher or the superintendent, whether you're the sailor in the Navy or the admiral in the Navy, whether you're a clerk in the congressman's office or the Congress, or the congressperson, regardless of what it is that you do, you enjoy the high standard of living that you do because salespeople like me are out there selling. Be proud you sell, ladies and gentlemen. Buy these ideas we've been talking about. You see, what I'm really talking about is an attitude toward the profession. So you acquire the skills, acquire the professionalism, learn the techniques and the procedures, and buy this idea that selling is a magnificent profession. Because if you do, I can close by saying, I'll see you. And yes, I really do mean you, my selling friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for being here on video. I think you're going to enjoy what we're going to talk about. For time immemorial, going back to several hundred years before Christ, the greatest minds of all time have focused on answering the question, why is it that some people are more successful than others? All the work of Socrates was around the subject, how shall we live in order to be happy? What are the keys to wisdom and goodness in life? Plato also wrote about the same subject. How should we live? How should we organize our lives and our families and our societies? Aristotle, and all throughout history, the great philosophers and metaphysicians and mystics, the great religious teachers and preachers and the best writers have all looked at this question. What can we do in order to be happy, to be more successful, to have more of the things that we want? If I say, would you like to be financially independent? You say, of course. Would you like to be financially independent? Yes. Why aren't you? Why aren't you financially independent? You're making one of the best livings in the history of the world, living in the richest country in the history of the world. Why aren't you a little bit financially independent? And you know what you say? I can't. My bills are too high. My taxes are too high. My costs are too high. My this, my that, my... The fact of the matter is there are people who come over here with nothing from foreign countries and save every single thing that they make and live on half of their income, and 10 years later, working at laboring jobs, they've got 20, 50, 100 people working for them and they're financially independent. Why? It's because they had no limitation. All of our limitations exist within our own minds, and the worst of all is we feel helpless. The second reason why people stay where they are is illustrated by the story of Speedy the Rat. Speedy the Rat is put into a cage, and off the cage there are 4 tunnels. And Speedy is kept hungry, and in the mouth of the 4th tunnel, down here, a little bit of cheese is put. Speedy is dropped into the cage, and Speedy is hungry with it. Smells cheese around here somewhere, so starts doing a little search. Searches around a little bit, tries 1st tunnel, 2nd tunnel, 3rd tunnel, finds the cheese in the 4th tunnel. Eats the cheese and is happy. Take Speedy out, keep him out for 24 hours, he's hungry again, put him back in, now his cheese is in the mouth of the 4th tunnel, and Speedy goes, a little bit familiar. He does a search process, comes to the 1st tunnel, 2nd tunnel, 3rd tunnel, there's the cheese in the 4th tunnel. By the 3rd or 4th day, he puts Speedy in the cage and he'll go right to the 4th tunnel and get the cheese. Once Speedy is conditioned, they take the cheese and they move it halfway back this tunnel, about 3 feet deep. This is the tunnel by which I mean about 3 feet or 3 inches wide. And Speedy comes running in, rushes to the 4th tunnel, no cheese. Looks around, backs up, counts. Goes and explores, sniff, 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 sniff. Smells cheese in that 4th tunnel, finally explores and finds the cheese. Well, in a couple of days, Speedy is conditioned to drop into the cage, go straight to the 4th tunnel, halfway back and get the cheese. And so then they move the cheese to the back of the 4th tunnel. And of course, in no time at all, Speedy is conditioned to go and get the cheese. Then they take the cheese and move it to the back of the 2nd tunnel. Well, Speedy's put in the cage, goes straight to the 4th tunnel, straight to the back, comes out, looks up at the researcher, says, where's my cheese? Not a happy camper. They say, I don't know. Speedy turns around, goes back to the back of the 4th tunnel, comes back. Hungry. When you're hungry, you know, you don't have much of a sense of humor, even if you're a rat. Turns around, goes back to the back of the 4th tunnel, comes back. Now here's the moral of the story. Speedy has a rat brain the size of a pea. You, as human beings, have a 3-pound brain that is the most powerful organism ever conceived of in the universe. We cannot even conceive of anything more complex and more powerful than your brain. You can send thoughts across thousands of miles. You can think of a person and get them to phone you from across the country. You've done this many times before. Your brain is so powerful it's scary when it's properly used. But Speedy has a brain the size of a pea. And Speedy, with a brain the size of a pea, will eventually figure out that there's no cheese at the end of the 4th tunnel. And will begin exploring the other tunnels and will eventually find it at the end of the 2nd tunnel. But human beings with this incredible brain will keep going down the 4th tunnel forever. They will keep doing what they've always done. They will get into a rut, which we call a comfort zone. They will set a series of habits that are not serving their best interests, and they will keep on with those habits, and they will keep doing things that no longer make them happy, that no longer give them any cheese, and they will keep doing them year after year. And we find that almost everybody today, all of us, consciously and unconsciously, is held by these twin pillars, these twin bindings of helplessness on the one hand and habit on the other. Is that we try to free ourselves from feeling helpless, and we fall right into an old comfort zone. Or we get out of the comfort zone, we get right back into feeling helpless. The only way that we can achieve our true destiny is to break the shackles that are holding us, and the answers to both of them are confidence and courage. Courage and confidence. The greatest single limitation on success in America, in the world today, is lack of confidence. It's not that we can't do it. We have capacities and abilities beyond anything that we have ever thought of in our whole life. You know, if you used your talents to the full for the rest of your life, you would never even use a fraction of what you're actually capable of, based on all the research that's been done. We are right now functioning, according to Stanford Brain Institute, with about 2% of our brain power. 2%. The rest of it is huge, this huge reserve of brain power, which we're kind of keeping there in case we ever need a little. You know, we got so much of it, it's unbelievable. Well, so I said to myself, what is the key here? And you know what? There's a common denominator of helplessness and habit. And the common denominators are fear and ignorance. Fear and ignorance. We're afraid. We're afraid it might not work. We're afraid we might fail. We're afraid it might cost us something. We're afraid of criticism and embarrassment. We're afraid of failure and loss and limitation and lack and ill health and disapproval. We're so afraid. The things that we would do if we weren't afraid are literally beyond belief. And we're afraid of getting out of the comfort zone because of what they might say. What if we did something different? Changed jobs, changed careers, started a business, got into something else? What would they say? You know, I was listening to a psychologist talking the other day. He says nobody's ever been able to define who they are. But it's they out there. It's the great almighty they that's got us terrified. You know, it's a true statement. We say that when you're in your 20s, you don't care what people think. And when you're in your 30s, you're very sensitive to what people think. And then you get into your 40s. And in your 40s, you realize the great truth is that no one was ever thinking about you at all. And that's the fact. Nobody ever thinks about us at all. And there we are. We're so terrified of doing what we really want to do because of what they might say or think. So we stay in that comfort zone. Now, all successful people are those who consciously are aware that the self-doubt that holds most people back is something that they are heir to as well. And they're alert and sensitive to it. When a person says, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? They have a tendency to say, well, I can't because of this and I can't. Wait a minute. There's a story of a little boy who goes to school for the first time. And the teacher says, do you play a musical instrument? He said, I don't know, I haven't tried yet. If you ask an adult, do you play a musical instrument? What will the adult say? Nope, I can't. No, never could. Don't have tone deaf. Don't have any musical ability at all. You know, every child has perfect pitch up to the age of 5. Every child has the ability to play classical music up to the age of 5. The new Suzuki musical training systems have demonstrated that. You can start teaching kids classical violin at the age of 3. Just when they can barely move their hands, they can start to play. It's phenomenal. Yeah, most of us believe, I can't. You know, I don't have it. I can't do it. Our natural tendency is to sell ourselves short. Our natural tendency is to think of the reasons why we can't before they think of the reasons why we can. So the key to breaking ourselves out of the comfort zone and breaking ourselves loose of the shackle of helplessness is courage and confidence. We neutralize the antidote to fear and ignorance is desire and knowledge. And the more we learn about what we want to do and be and have, the more we believe that we can do it. The more we believe that we can do it, the more willing we are to try. And the more willing we are to try, the more likely it is we will succeed. What is the first part of triumph? The first part of triumph is to try. One-liner. Now, this is what I thought. What if somebody came to that elephant and said, Mr. Elephant, you don't have to stay here. You can do anything you want. You're the biggest animal in the world. That little thing can't hold you. All you have to do is pop loose and you can go. He says, no. I've been stuck here for years. And every time I'm tied up, I stay here. Why? Well, because of this and because that's a habit. You know, I can't and I can't. I wish I would. I wanted. I'm too tall. I'm too short. I'm male, female, young, old, educated, uneducated. So what we say is, look, just try. Just try. The very thought of trying something new or different is traumatic for most people. All right, I'll try it. All right. Pop. And the elephant has been gone. I've been tied up and made to work like a slave all these years, and that's what's been holding me. And the elephant gets mad and it goes looking for its owner. Now, what do you call an elephant that gets mad and goes looking for its owner? You call it what? A rogue elephant. That's right. Now, each one of you has the capacity to be a rogue elephant because you know something? There's nothing holding us back except the limitations we have in our own mind. That elephant is in reality unstoppable. And the most important goal that you can develop, the most important quality or characteristic that you can develop for happiness and success is to be unstoppable yourself. Is to think of yourself as unstoppable. And you know how you become unstoppable? It's by the basic psychological behavioral development principle of simply saying it to yourself. Because whatever you say to yourself and believe over and over again, you start to believe as a reality. You start to walk it and talk it and act it. So what you say is, I am unstoppable. I'm unstoppable. I'm unstoppable. I don't care what it is. I'm unstoppable. Nothing will stop me. The greatest of all qualities to guarantee success is the absolute willingness to go at anything and refuse to stop until you achieve it. And you know something? The statistics show that 95% of the goals that you set for yourself, you will achieve if you refuse to quit. So the starting point is just to simply say, I am unstoppable. Say it. Say, I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. Now say it like you mean it. Get your thumbs out of your mouths and say it like you mean it. Say, I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. Once more, I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. Yes. Now from now on, whenever you see a barrier or wall, or you think of anything you want to do or be, you say, wait a minute here. I'm unstoppable. Nothing stops me. And you know something? You will develop yourself to the point where nothing does. Cause and effect, going right back to what we talked about. Mental attitudes and personality are determined by things that we do. And there are certain things that you can do consistently every single day. And in so doing them, you'll build your self-confidence up and up and up to the point where you become unstoppable. And these are very simple things, and they're practiced by the most successful men and women who were so terrified they could not lead silent prayer in a telephone booth at one time. And they built themselves up to the point where they're not afraid of anything by working on themselves. Just like a weightlifter builds up muscles, you can build up character, personality, and strength, and tenacity, and desire, and knowledge, and courage, and confidence by working on yourself. And so I'm going to give you now the 12 key principles, practiced by all high-achieving men and women. Very easy to learn, very easy to practice, don't cost anything. As a matter of fact, what I would ask is that you try them just a little tiny bit, and you'll get results out of all proportion to the efforts you put in. The first of all, starting point of great accomplishment is to dream big dreams. Number one, dream big dreams. Let your mind float free. All really exceptional men and women dream big dreams. They allow their minds to float. They think of what they could be and what they could do and what they really, really want. Here's an exercise for you. Take a piece of paper later on and write at the top, dream list, and then make a list of all your dreams. If you're married, sit down with your spouse and say, honey, let's make a list of everything we'd like to be, do, or have in the rest of our lives. But what about this? What about that? No, decide what's right before you decide what's possible. Don't decide, well, we can't afford this, and we couldn't do that. Stop. That's helplessness. That's habit. That's these old negative habit patterns holding you back. Before you even decide what you want, most people are figuring out why they can't have it. What you do is you say, wait a minute, if I had no limitations, and this is the key, you dream as though you had no limitations. Nothing's holding you back. Imagine you have all the time, all the money, contacts, all the education, influence. You have everything going for you in the whole world. And just simply decide, these are my dreams, and write them down. Project yourself into the future. Say, where do I want to be in 5 to 10 years? If I could design a perfect life, so my life was perfect in every respect, my relationships, my income, my work, my family, my health, my home, my car, what would it be? This is the starting point of great achievement, because what will happen is that if you can clearly define that target, you can hit it. You eventually always hit the targets that you set for yourself, but you can't hit a target that you can't see. So allow your mind to float freely. Allow yourself to engage in what is called blue sky thinking. Blue sky thinking means you just simply imagine you have the whole blue sky above you and no limitations, and then you write it down. And then you think and ask yourself this question. What one great thing would I dare to dream if I knew I could not fail? What one great thing would you dare to dream if you knew you could not fail? Imagine you were absolutely guaranteed of success in any one thing, big or small, long-term or short-term, in the whole world, what would it be? And write it down. Now, that doesn't make your heart pound a little bit faster. Then maybe somebody should nudge you with their elbow because you're probably not alive or awake. The fact is that when you start dreaming big dreams, you know what happens? Is your self-concept goes up, your self-esteem goes up. The very fact that you allow yourself to dream big dreams causes you to feel better about yourself, see yourself better, think of yourself better, and it starts the process of making yourself unstoppable. You become unstoppable. People with big dreams they're absolutely committed to are unstoppable human beings. It's people with little dreams and no hopes and no plans beyond tomorrow and next week. These are easy people to stop. Now, people that have big dreams to make wonderful lives for themselves, they're phenomenal. The second key is to develop a clear sense of direction. Develop clear goals and make plans for their accomplishment. You see, if you have big goals, they motivate you, they stimulate you, they excite you, they enthuse you. If you have no goals at all, you just go around in circles. What we have found is that goals are the fuel in the furnace of achievement. You have big goals, and the more you work on the goals and the more you feel yourself progressing toward them, the better you feel, the more First of all, decide exactly what you want. Most people never do that. Second of all, he said, determine the price you're going to have to pay to get it, and then start paying it. Earl Nightingale said that happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. The very most dependable way to keep yourself positive and happy and motivated is to think about your goals and to work towards your goals every single day. Because when you work progressively, step by step, towards something that's important to you, you know what happens? You feel better and better, and you start to get results, and the results start to motivate you to go forward even more, and you get more results, and pretty soon you develop this wonderful feeling of self-confidence. You become unstoppable. When you have big dreams, that's the cosmic or vision part of your life, and then goals, which are very set and specific, and you start moving toward fulfilling them, you feel fabulous about yourself. 80-90% of unhappiness in our society today is because people don't have goals. Whenever you meet an unhappy person, here's a test question. Just say, well, you're unhappy about this and your job and your family and your health and everything else, but tell me, what are your goals? Do you know what people will say? Geez, what kind of a question is that? Most people have no goals. As soon as they have goals, they start to move forward. Now, here's the keys to setting goals. First of all, write them down. A goal that's not written is just a fantasy. A real goal, is a dream with a deadline. So take the goal and write it down. And then set a deadline for the goal. And when do you want to accomplish it? And then make a plan to accomplish it. Write down everything you can think of that you'll have to do to get the goal. And then organize the plan by priority. What should you do first? What should you do second? And so on. And then get started. It's the most incredible darn thing. But there's amazing how many people say, I'd like to be financially independent. Well, why aren't you? To show me your financial independence bank account. Show me your savings account and your plan for how much you're going to put in each week, each month, each year, and where you plan to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Oh, I don't have any of that. I just want to be financially independent. Shut up. The fact of the matter is that once you start moving toward the accomplishment of a goal, the most remarkable darn things happen. Once you have your goal, make a commitment to it. You see, we either develop good habits that make our lives wonderful, or we develop bad habits that undermine our success. And if we develop habits of setting goals clearly and making plans and setting deadlines and taking action, and then committing ourselves wholeheartedly to their accomplishment and refusing to stop because we're unstoppable, then we must ultimately achieve the goal. I've been studying this subject for 30 years. I never met anybody who could set a very clear goal for themselves and make a plan and work on it and keep on working on it who didn't eventually achieve their goal. In fact, if you think about your whole life, there wasn't anything that you ever wanted long enough and hard enough that you didn't eventually get. You always get what you want long enough and hard enough. So what we do is set our sights up. Number 3 is accept complete responsibility for yourself and everything that happens to you. I used to be asked on radio and television, why are some people more successful than others? And I used to think it was goals was the starting point. But you know what the real starting point is? To accept that if it's to be, it's up to me. Is that nobody's going to do it for me. You know, they say that the mark of maturity is when you finally realize that no one is coming to the rescue. No one's coming to the rescue. That the difference between the mature person and the immature person is the mature person accepts that they're totally responsible for their own life. That they are where they are and what they are because of themselves. Now this is a hard thing to accept, but you have decided exactly every single part of your life today. You've decided your income and your home and your health and your weight. You've decided your bank account and your car. You've decided your job and your future. You've decided every single part of it. Why? It's because you're free to choose. Freedom is a very, very wonderful thing. Tremendous upside, tremendous downside too. But freedom means that nobody imposes anything on you. So where you are and what you are is a result of all of your choices and decisions up to now. If you want to change any part of your future, then you simply change your choices and decisions in the present. The first thing to choose, the first thing to change is to decide what it is that you want. But second of all is to decide that if I'm going to get it, it's up to me. We've said over and over again, see yourself as the president of your own life, the president of your own career, the president of your own personal corporation. Because in reality, all of us are self-employed. The worst mistake anyone can ever make is to ever think that they work for someone else but themselves. No matter who signs your paycheck, we all work for ourselves. You want a raise and pay? No problem. Go to the washroom next time you get a chance and negotiate with your boss in the mirror. And your raise will become effective as soon as you do. It's very simple. I've never met an employer who is not willing to pay a person more money if they will produce more value for the company. And the amount of value we produce is always up to us. So always say, I am responsible. I am responsible. I am unstoppable. I am responsible. Well, I don't like something. It's up to me to change it. No excuses. No blaming. Never complain, never explain. If you're not happy with something, change it. Not willing to change it, shut up. Right? But the fact is, we're responsible. Number 4, do what you love to do. This is very important. These are the four, this in terms of becoming unstoppable is fabulous, because if you do what you love to do, you will be like an irresistible force of nature. Do what you love to do and commit to becoming very good at it. All of our research indicates that the odds against there being another person like you are more than 50 billion to 1. In the entire history of humanity, there will never be 2 people like you. Never be 2 people with the same face. Never be 2 people with the same, even blood composition, exactly. Never be 2 people with the same outlook, the same talents, abilities, capacities. Never be 2 people like you. And that every single person, or let us say 95% or more of the population, are born with the capacity to do something remarkable with their life. And the starting point of personal greatness is when you say to yourself, what a wonderful thing am I going to do with my life? Why am I here? I have this one life, this precious, precious life, and as you know, this life is not a rehearsal for something else. This is the real one. You say to yourself, what am I going to do with my life? Why am I here? What am I doing with the talents and abilities? Look back into your life and ask yourself, what is it that you've done in the past that you most enjoy? What is it that you've done in the past that comes easy to you, but which may be difficult to others? What subject did you do the best at in school? What are the things that interest you the most? What are the things you like to read about, talk about, and learn about? What are the things that hold your attention? What are the things that are indicators that this is where you should be focusing all your talents and abilities? Whatever it is, find it, and then commit yourself to becoming excellent at it. You see, it's not possible for us to be happy unless we know we're good at what we do. A person who's not very good at what they do feels inferior when they're with people who are good at what they do. We've all had this experience, by the way. Being around people who are at the top of their field and we're not, we feel just a little bit kind of overawed, a bit. We're standing in the shadow of their light. And knowing that good at what we do makes us feel yes. So if you are dreaming big dreams and you have clear goals and you accept total responsibility and you're doing what you love to do and you're getting better and better at it, and remember, excellence is a journey, not a destination. It's not a goal at which we arrive anytime in life. We just keep working and keep working and keep working. There's a story about Ted Williams when he was the top baseball player in America, one of the highest paid, best batting averages, and so on. At the end of a doubleheader, everybody had gone home. The park was empty. And the park maintenance man was out cleaning up. And way out there, with an automatic ball machine, there was a batter just slugging away at the balls. And he came out and looked at him and he said, geez, he said, you're Ted Williams. He said, yes. He said, pleased to meet you. He said, what are you doing here? All the other ball players are back at the hotel, having parties and everything else. He said, well, I'm practicing. He said, but you're the best baseball player. You're the best hitter in all of America. He said, you don't need to be out there. He said, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because always concentrating on getting better. Of course it pays off. In the final analysis, all the people really care about how well did you do the job. Did you do a good job or not? We always pay top dollar for the people who are the best. If we have, and we can afford it, and we have an illness or a child who has an illness, we say, who's the best? Who's the very best? We want the best. We want the best in every field. There's no market for mediocrity. The two metaphors for American life are sports and business. And both sports and business, the only thing we care about is the very best. Excellence. Top quality champions. And that's our job, too. And nobody can do it for us. That is our job. The fifth key to becoming unstoppable is to dedicate yourself to serving other people. It was well written not long ago that nobody ever built a statue to a person for what they got, but only for what they gave. Is that your rewards in life will always be determined by the value of your service to other people. And so you have to look around you and say, what rewards am I getting right now? And there's two types of rewards, by the way. There's financial rewards, and there are more tangible rewards, and there's intangible, emotional rewards. But all of your life satisfaction, true happiness, and true rewards will come from serving other people. In fact, we are here. Albert Einstein was asked in the latter years of his life, what's the purpose of human life? And he said, after some thought, he said, well, we're here to serve others. What other purpose could there be? We're here to serve others. What other purpose could there be? Here's the interesting thing that I found out, is that you're only truly happy and only truly liberated and only feel wonderful about yourself and your life when you can lose yourself in doing something that you feel enriches and uplifts and enhances the life of other people. Every successful executive in every small and large company loses himself in their work. Tom Peters, after writing In Search of Excellence, said, if you threw away the whole book, you have to keep one principle. It's an obsession with customer service. A friend of mine who teaches total quality management said, you can take all the books and put them aside, and total quality management means just one thing. Is find out what your customer really wants and give it to them. And give it to them at a good price and give it to them at a good quality. But that's all it is. Total quality life means dedicating ourselves to serving people that we care about. And if you're not happy with your work, you know what it means? It means that those people you're serving may not be the right people for you. It doesn't mean that it's not bad work or it's not good work. It just means that it may not be right for you. So therefore, you should look forward to working. You should love the work that you're doing. You should tremendously enjoy the results that you get for other people. And if you don't, it just means that there's something else that you should do. But you'll never be happy and you'll never be fulfilled and you'll never be unstoppable until deep in your heart you absolutely love serving the people that you serve. And the men and women who have dedicated their lives to service throughout human history are the ones that we admire the most. Albert Schweitzer, when he was alive, Mother Teresa today, probably the most respected person on the globe because she's dedicated her whole life to service. So think about it. Who do you want to serve? And then become very good at serving whoever it is. Number 6, develop a workaholic mentality. That means that you have to work hard to be successful. You can't just sort of drag along. We say in our society, you work 40 hours for survival, and everything over that each week is for success. If all your work is 40 hours, you just survive. You just sort of tread water in a steady stream that's moving down, and you tread water and you maybe just hold your place. And you pray to God you don't get laid off, because then you just go downstream so fast. Financially, it's unbelievable. But when you're working hard, doing something you care about, achieving your goals and fulfilling your dreams and serving and helping people that you want to help, you become unstoppable. You become irresistible. We know that in America today, we've been sold a bill of goods. The bill of goods is that you can have a great life at 40 hours a week, and maybe 38 or 37 or 35. And the fact of the matter is, in 25 years of searching, I've never found a single successful person who works 40 hours a week. The number of successful people in America working 40 hours a week or less is somewhere between 0 and 90. There aren't anywhere. And yet we're told, well, if you can't do it in 40 hours, it's not worth doing. The average work week for successful Americans is between 50 and 60 hours. Many work 70 and 80 and 90. They work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, or 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Very few people successful in 5 days a week. Very, very few people. I'd love to meet one. They're rare. Maybe they're in the Smithsonian. But they're very rare people. The fact is that successful people, especially during the important years of their life when they're building their estate, work 6 days a week. And here's the most important principle, is work all the time you work. When you do work. We've been brought up to this post-World War II affluence where people could get a job and do the job and get a good salary and life is fine. And those days are gone forever. The fact is that the average person working today wastes fully 50% of their time fooling around. They waste it socializing. They waste it on telephone calls. They waste it on lunches and coffee breaks. They waste it reading the newspaper. And then when they do work the other 50% of the time, they do what's fun and easy. They work on low-value tasks. They spin their wheels. But the successful people are those who work all the time they work. So if you're going to work 8 or 9 hours a day, and let's say you have family, so you can't work more than that, and be sure that when you do work, you put more of yourself into the work. Because there's nothing that makes you feel more powerful than to know that you're on top of your work, and you're making progress, and you're getting things done. One of the reasons why so many people are out of balance today is because they waste so blasted much time at work, and then they have to take the work home. Remember the story of the fellow kept bringing a briefcase full of work home, and his daughter was asking his wife, Mommy, how come Daddy always brings a briefcase full of work home and works at night instead of spending time with the family? And she says, well, honey, he doesn't get his work done at the office, so he has to bring it home and work on it. She said, well, why don't they put him in a slower class? When you waste your time at work, what you're saying is, I should be put in a slower class, and sooner or later, you'll be put in a slower class. That always happens. It's called unemployment, downsizing, and things like that. Number 7 is be an unshakable optimist. Be an unshakable optimist. This is wonderful. In other words, always look for the good in every situation. We know that a positive mental attitude is a foundation of a healthy, happy life. a positive mental attitude, an attitude of absolute confidence and determination that you can and be and do whatever you want, goes hand in hand with all great success. The work on positive attitude concludes this, that how you feel about yourself is based on 2 or 3 factors. First of all, it's the way you look at situations. If you look for the good in other situations and other people, you always find it. You always have a tendency to find what you do look for. If you look for the valuable lesson in every setback, and every single day you can have setbacks and obstacles and difficulties and disappointments, so just look for the valuable lesson. The most important of all is the work done at the University of Pennsylvania, which concludes that we are optimists to the degree to which we control our explanatory style. Explanatory style means the way we interpret things to ourselves. If you interpret things to yourself in a positive way, you're going to be positive. If you interpret them in a negative way, you're going to be negative. So superior people are consciously taking everything that happens to them and looking for a positive way to twist them. Here's an example. My friend Wayne Dyer says, would you like to have a happy childhood? Because he says it's never too late to have a happy childhood. You can have a happy childhood whenever you want. How do you do it? What you do is you turn around and you look back and you reinterpret the events that were so upsetting at the time as being events that were positive and helpful, and they built your character, and they taught you what you didn't want and what you wanted more of. They gave you direction and change and so on. In other words, if you take the time and you have some fun, you can take any negative situation you've ever had and you can turn it around and you can find something good in it, and by so doing, you become a positive person. You take control of your thinking, you take control of your personality, and the more optimistic you become in the achievement of your goals, the more unstoppable you become. Can you imagine a negative person is unstoppable? Negative people are stopped cold every time they turn around. But optimistic people have this momentum that drives them over any obstacles that come along. So talk to yourself positively all the time. Say, I like this. I feel terrific. I feel happy. I feel healthy. I feel wonderful. The more you talk to yourself in a positive way, the better you feel. Now, the 8th key to becoming unstoppable, developing unshakable self-confidence, is to be impeccably honest with yourself and others. What we have found is that truly successful people are absolutely honest and objective with themselves and their worlds. They practice the highest of integrity. There's nothing that so undermines your confidence and so weakens your resolve than feeling inside that you're not doing or saying the right thing. Shakespeare said, "To thine own self be true, and then it must follow as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man." Now, internal integrity, being true to yourself, being true to the very best that is in you, is the starting point. But the outward expression of it is doing what you do in a quality way. You see, the work that you do with your hands, the work that you choose to hand in, the work that you choose to represent, that will be a symbol of you, is a mark of your true level of integrity. A person who has a high level of integrity does excellent work. A person with a low level of integrity does whatever they can get away with. A person says, well, I'm a very honest person, as long as you don't give me temptation. And the fact of the matter is, you can ask people, is he an honest person? Yes, I am. Well, what if you could steal $1 million and nobody would know? Well, tell me about it. So basically, you're just a thief looking for an opportunity. Because a truly honest person, a person of high character, is a person that would not compromise their integrity for anyone or anything. Once you decide to be true to yourself, then the next extension, aside from your work, is to live in truth with others. Living in truth with others is one of the hardest and most challenging things we ever do. But it's also one of the great builders of your soul or destroyers of your soul. Because almost all of our problems in life talk back. Almost all of our problems in life come with hair on top. They come with 2 legs. And you find that men and women who are truly together as human beings are completely honest and direct with other people. If they're not happy with a situation, they say, I'm not happy with this situation. That doesn't mean you go and punch somebody in the face when you're not happy. It just means you say, I'm not happy with this situation, and I'd like to find a way to rectify it. And if the other person isn't willing to work with you to make you happy in the situation, you don't want to be in that situation anyway. It's absolutely amazing how many people stay in situations where the other person couldn't give a damn whether they were happy or not. And then they try to make the situation work. And they ask me for advice on how to make the situation work. And I say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. The fact is that if you live in truth with others, it means that you're perfectly honest with other people. And when you're perfectly honest with other people, you feel better about yourself. You feel stronger inside. Here's the key. Set peace of mind, the greatest of mind is your highest goal and make everything else you do fit underneath it. Refuse to compromise your peace of mind for anything. And you know what? If you do, you'll probably never make another mistake. If you said peace of mind is my highest goal, you say everything that I do or don't do from now on is either going to give me a sense of inner peace or I'm not going to do it. It takes tremendous courage to do this. But if you do it, you feel terrific about yourself. You feel powerful inside. You feel so good about yourself. You feel so focused and so light and so happy. But if you compromise your peace of mind, it's like kicking the chair out from under you psychologically and emotionally. So just refuse to compromise your peace of mind. Refuse to do it if you don't feel good about it. Listen to your inner voice. Number 9, develop a reputation for speed and dependability. In a survey of 104 chief executive officers a couple of years ago, they asked them what qualities would most put a person onto the fast track for promotion in their company. And they almost unanimously answered the ability to set priorities and get the job done fast. The ability to pick what's important and then to get on with it, get the job done. You know, today, time is the currency, this key source of value of the 90s and beyond. And today, we value people who do things for us fast. Today, as a matter of fact, they have what is called queuing theory. When there's a queue and people join the queue, they say, and they estimate this all the time, how long a queue will a person join before they walk away and not buy it? It used to be 7, then it was 6, now it was 5, then it's 4. You know, queuing theory today is 3. Person will walk up, there's 3 people in line. If that line is not moving, forget it, I won't buy it, get it something else. That's why they have to have people on almost like alert. When people start to approach checkout counters or desks in banks, they watch, because as soon as there's 3 people, they better get up there. Those people will walk away, change their accounts. We don't even know we want it till today, now we want it yesterday. Isn't that right? When you sell products or services, it may take you 2 or 3 months to get the order, and now they want it last week. And they're very insistent we deliver immediately, or they buy it from someone else. It's a most incredible thing. So therefore, get a reputation for having a sense of urgency. Get a reputation for having a bias for action. Get a reputation for fast tempo, move fast, move quick. When a person asks you a question, don't say, well, I'll get back to you next week. Get back to them now, quickly, as fast as you can. Develop a bias for action. Say to yourself, oh, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. And if you add this like a rock behind everything else, you become unstoppable. Now, number 10, concentrate single-mindedly on one thing at a time. Pick the most important thing that you have to do and concentrate single-mindedly on doing that, only that, until it's done. The ability to concentrate single-mindedly on the most valuable use of your time, to stay with it without diversion or distraction until it's done, gives you a tremendous sense of power and confidence and self-esteem. Working on low-level tasks, by the way, is a real downer. You can work on them all day. At the end of the day, you'll feel tired and depressed and negative, and you have low self-esteem because in the back of your mind, you know you're not accomplishing anything. But if you just pick one thing, the most important thing, and by the way, all success is preceded by single-minded concentration on a single task for a long period of time before it's accomplished. There are no successful people who have not developed the ability to concentrate without diversion or distraction on the one thing. Andrew Carnegie, who became the richest man in America, said that the ability to do this and learning this one secret, the ability to concentrate on the highest value task, was what was more dependent, more responsible for his fortune than anything else. And he paid $64,000 to a management consultant for that one idea. I just gave it to you for nothing. Number 11, I'll never consider the possibility of failure. Remember that in order to be successful, you have to fail a lot. Thomas J. Watson, the founder of IBM, was once asked by a young man, how could I be successful faster? He said simple. He said, double your rate of failure. If you want to be successful faster, fail more often. You see, there's this law of probabilities that says the more you fail, the more likely you are to succeed. The less you fail, the less likely you are to succeed. Peter Drucker says you would never hire a person who has not had some major failures in life because they haven't learned anything. So the key is, if you want to be successful, don't be afraid of failure. Has anybody here ever failed, by the way? You ever failed? Yes. Does failure hurt you? No. Failure makes you strong. There's an old saying that what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Failure has made you strong. Failure has developed your character. There's an old saying that the north wind made the Vikings. The cold of the north wind coming out of the north that they had to roll against made them the most formidable fighting force in the world. It's failure that makes us strong, but it's the fear of failure that kills us. And the way that you deal with the fear of failure is once you've decided what your dreams are and what you want to do, act as if it were impossible to fail. Imagine it were impossible to fail. Say, by gum, I can do that, and just start to think of all the benefits of achieving that goal, and then act boldly. Confront your fears. Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Do you know that the ability to confront the fear of failure and to overcome it and to move towards your fears rather than away from them is the one guarantor that you absolutely become unstoppable? If you do it over and over again, you develop the habit of courage. When you develop the habit of courage, eventually you find you're not afraid of anything. When you're not afraid of anything, your whole world opens up for you like a sunrise on the horizon. Everything becomes possible. You look around, versus what about this, what about that? I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. You get to the point where you're willing to do anything except jump out of an airplane without a parachute. Because as they say, if at first you don't succeed, then skydiving is probably not for you. Number 12. Number 12 is resolve to persist until you succeed. In the final analysis, there are two parts of courage. Remember, Winston Churchill once said that courage is rightly considered the foremost of the virtues, for upon it all others depend. Courage is defined as the ability to act and to go forward in the face of uncertainty. It's to face the fact that you may not succeed. It's the willingness to take chances and to take risks. The future belongs to the risk takers. The future belongs to people who are willing to take the risks necessary. The second part of courage is persistence. It's the willingness to endure. It's the willingness to hang in there. Once you've started and you have begun, there is a period between when you begin and when you get some result. And in that period, most people break and run. Most people fall apart. They cannot stand not knowing, so they rush back to their comfort zone. This is basically true in all the psychological work that's been done. But what you have to do is be willing to persist in the face of adversity, even though there is no guarantee of success. And here's the wonderful thing. When you persist, your self-esteem goes up. Each time you force yourself to stay in there, your self-esteem goes up. You like yourself more. You respect yourself. You feel more confident. You feel better about yourself. In fact, in the ultimate end, you don't even mind losing because you've persisted. But here's the second thing, is persistence is self-discipline in action. And self-discipline is the foundation quality of a great personality. Everything we've talked about really depends upon our having the discipline to do it. And self-discipline means the willingness to do what you should do, when you should do it, when you feel like it. Do what you should do, when you should do it, when you feel like it. And if you can persist, you develop the habit of persistence. If you develop the habit of persistence, pretty soon you get to the point where nothing will stop you and you become unstoppable. In other words, everything we've talked about is that you build your own character. You create yourself in the image that you imagine for yourself. And your goal must be to become absolutely unstoppable in anything you do. Your goal must be to set big dreams and to set goals and to take responsibility and by gum to make anything out of your life that you want to make up. To do anything that you want, because there's no limits. At least there's no limits that you'll ever reach or I'll ever reach in our lifetimes. Let me leave you with this little poem, and it's called Don't Quit. And this poem is something you've all heard. It was written by someone named Anonymous, so we don't have to pay royalties for its use. And it says, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging is all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high and you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down, rest if you must, don't you quit. For life is queer with its twists, turns, as every one of us sometimes learns, and many a failure turns about. And you might have won had you stuck it out. So don't give up, though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another goal. Success is just failure turned inside out. It's the silver tip of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell how close you are. It may be near, but it seems so far. So stick to the fight. When your hardest hit, it's when things seem worst that you must not. And if you don't quit, and if you keep on keeping on, then you will become unstoppable. Yes, thank you very much.
edge challenged and excited. My excitement is I get a chance to give something back. My challenge is the shortest seminar usually is 50 hours. And I'm not exaggerating. I do weekends, and what I do more than that, obviously coach people, but I'm into immersion. How'd you learn language? You didn't learn it by just learning principles. You got in it and you did it so often that it became real. My stuff isn't pre-programmed. You know, something happens in the room, I ask a question, and I play out what's going on. In 17 minutes, that's not going to happen. I know we're going to put the principles across, and I'm non-respectful to the format. I've gotten great value from it. Although Lisa Randall, I felt very tough for how to explain Einstein's theories in 18 minutes. To make sure that you're served, though, because I really came here to serve, is I put some tapes in your box, but I want you to know that if you want to use net time, I call it no extra time or some of these things and use them at the level. You call my office or you're from TED, you're on the list. You can get any product I have at no charge for it. If you ever want to come to a seminar, I'd love to have you spend the as well. So my gift is free. Thank you. So the race begins. I've probably put a lot in here because I really want to try and serve you, and I hope it doesn't just sound like philosophy since we can't do the interaction at the same level, although I hope you'll participate in a little bit. The bottom line of why I'm here is that I'm really in a position, I'm not here to motivate you, obviously. You don't need that. A lot of times that's what people think I do. It's the furthest thing from it. What happens though is people say to me, well, I don't need any motivation. I said, well, that's interesting. That's not what I do. I'm the why guy. I don't know why you do what you do. What is your motive for action? What is it that drives you in life today? Not 10 years ago, or are you running the same pattern? Because I believe that the invisible force of internal drive activated is the most important thing in the world. I'm here because I believe emotion is the force of life. All of us here have great minds. You know, most of us here have great minds. I don't know if I'm in the category, but we all know how to think. With our minds, we can rationalize anything, we can make anything happen. We can, I agree with what was described a few days ago, this idea that people work in their self-interest, but we all know that you don't work in your self-interest all the time. Because when emotion comes into it, the wiring changes in the way it functions. So it's wonderful for us to think intellectually about how the life of the world is, and especially those who are very smart. We can play this game in our head, but I really want to know what's driving you, and what I'd like to maybe invite you to do by the end of this talk is explore where you are today for two reasons. One, so that you can contribute more. And two, so that hopefully we can not just understand other people more, but maybe appreciate them more and create the kinds of connections that can stop some of the challenges that we face in our society today that are only going to get magnified by the very technology that's connecting us, because it's making us intersect. And that intersection doesn't always create the view of everybody now understands everybody and everybody appreciates everybody. So I've had an obsession basically for 30 years. And that obsession has been what makes the difference in the quality of people's lives. What makes a difference in their performance, because that's what I got hired to do. I got to produce the result now. That's what I've done for 30 years. I get the phone call when the athlete is burning down on national television and they were ahead by 5 strokes and now they can't get back on the course. And I got to do something right now to get the result and nothing matters. I get the phone call when the child is going to commit suicide and I got to do something right now. And in 29 years, I'm very grateful to tell you I've never lost one in 29 years. It doesn't mean I won't someday, but I haven't done it. And the reason is an understanding of these human needs that I want to talk to you about. So when I get those calls about performance, that's one thing, like how do you make a change? But also, I'm looking to see what is it that's shaping that person's ability to contribute, to do something beyond themselves. So maybe the real question is, you know, I look at life and say there's 2 master lessons. One is there's the science of achievement, which almost everyone in this room has mastered to an amazing extent. That's how do you take the invisible and make it visible, right? How do you take what you dream about and make it happen? Whether it be your business, your contribution to society, money, whatever it is for you, your body, your family. But the other lesson of life that is rarely mastered is the art of fulfillment. Because science is easy, right? We know the rules, you write the code, you follow and you get the result. Once you know the game, you just, you up the ante, don't you? But when it comes to fulfillment, that's an art. And the reason is it's about appreciation and it's about contribution. You can only feel so much by yourself. So I've had an interesting laboratory to try to answer the question of the real question, which is what's the difference in somebody's life if you look at somebody like those people that you've given everything to, like all the resources they say they need. You gave them not a $100 computer, you gave them the best computer. You gave them love, you gave them joy, you were there to comfort them. And those people very often, and you know some of them I'm sure, end up the rest of their life with all this love, education, money, and background, spending their life going in and out of rehab. And then you meet people that have been through ultimate pain. Psychologically, sexually, spiritually, emotionally abused, and not always, but often they become some of the people that contribute the most to society. So the question we got to ask ourselves really is, what is it? what is it that shapes us? And we live in a therapy culture. Most of us don't do that, but the culture is a therapy culture. And what I mean by that is the mindset that we are our past. And everybody in this room, you wouldn't be in this room if you bought that theory, but most of society thinks biography is destiny. The past equals the future. And of course it does if you live there. But what people in this room know, and what we have to remind ourselves though, because you can know something intellectually, you can know what to do and then not use it, not apply it. So really what we got to remind ourselves is decision is the ultimate power. That's what it really is. Now when you ask people, you know, have you failed to achieve something? How many have ever failed to achieve something significant in your life? Say aye. Thanks for the interaction on a high level there. But if you ask people, why didn't you achieve something? Somebody who's working for you, or a partner, or even yourself, you failed to achieve a goal, what's the reason people say they failed to achieve? What do they tell you? Tell me. Come on, out loud. Didn't know enough, didn't have the knowledge, didn't have the money, didn't have the time, didn't have the technology, I didn't have the right manager, didn't have the Supreme Court. And what do all those, including the Supreme Court, have in common? They are a claim to you missing resources. And they may be accurate. You may not have the money. You may not have the Supreme Court. But that is not the defining factor. And you correct me if I'm wrong. The defining factor is never resources, it's resourcefulness. And what I mean specifically, rather than just some phrase, is if you have emotion, human emotion, something that I experienced from you the day before yesterday at a level that is as profound as I've ever experienced, and if you communicate with that emotion, I believe you would have won. But how easy for me to tell him what he should do. Idiot, Robbins. But I know when we watched the debate at that time, there were emotions that blocked people's ability to get this man's intellect and capacity and the way they came across to some people that day. Because I know people that wanted to vote in your direction and didn't, and I was upset. But there was emotion that was there. How many know what I'm talking about here? Say aye. So emotion is in. If we get the right emotion, we can get ourselves to do anything. We can get through it. If you're creative enough, playful enough, fun enough, can you get through to anybody, yes or no? If you don't have the money, but you're creative and determined enough, you find the way. So this is the ultimate resource, but this is not the story that people tell us, right? The story people tell us is a bunch of different stories. They tell us we don't have the resources, but ultimately, if you take a look here, flip it up if you would. You say, what are all the reasons they have in common? We've said that. Next one, please. He's broken my pattern. I appreciated the energy, I'll tell you that. What determines your resources? We've said decisions shape destiny, which is my focus here. If decisions shape destiny, what determines it is 3 decisions. What are you going to focus on? Right now, you have to decide what you're going to focus on. In this second, consciously or unconsciously. The minute you decide to focus on something, you got to give it a meaning. And whatever that meaning is produces emotion. Is this the end or the beginning? Is God punishing me or rewarding me, or is this the roll of the dice? And emotion then creates what we're going to do, or the action. So think about your own life, the decisions that have shaped your destiny. And that sounds really heavy, but in the last 5 or 10 years, 15 years, have there been some decisions you've made that if you made a different decision, your life would be completely different? How many can think of one, honestly? Better or worse? Say aye. So the bottom line is maybe it was where to go to work, and you met the love of your life there. Maybe it was a career decision. I know the Google geniuses I saw here. I mean, I understand that their decision was to sell their technology at first. What if they made that decision versus to build their own culture? How would the world be different? How would their lives be different? Their impact. The history of our world is these decisions. When a woman stands up and says, no, I won't go to the back of the bus, she didn't just affect her life. That decision shaped our culture. Or someone standing in front of a tank. Or being in a position like Lance Armstrong and someone says to you, you've got testicular cancer. That's pretty tough for any male, especially if you ride a bike. You got it in your brain, you got it in your lungs. But what was his decision of what to focus on? Different than most people. What did it mean? It wasn't the end, it was the beginning. What am I gonna do? He goes off and wins 7 championships. He never won once before the cancer because he got emotional fitness, psychological strength. That's the difference in human beings that I've seen of the 3 million I've been around. Because that's about my lab. I've had 3 million people from 80 different countries that I've had a chance to interact with over the last 29 years. And after a while, patterns become obvious. You see that South America and Africa maybe connect in a certain way, right? Other people say, oh, that sounds ridiculous. It's simple. So, what shaped Lance? What shapes you? 2 invisible forces. Very quickly. 1, state. We all have had times. If you had a time you did something and after you did it, you thought to yourself, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. It was so stupid. Who's been there? Say, aye. Have you ever done something after you did it? You go, that was me. It wasn't your ability, it was your state. I should be able to change that quickly, but what I want to finish with quickly here is your model of the world is what shapes you long term. Your model of the world is the filter. That's what's shaping us. That's what makes people make decisions. We want to influence somebody, we don't know what already influences them. And it's made up of 3 parts, I believe. First, what's your target? What are you after? Which I believe it's not your desires. You look at your desires and goals. How many ever got a goal and desire and thought, is this all there is? How many been there? Say aye. So it's needs we have. I believe there are 6 human needs. Second, once you know what the target that's driving you is and you uncover it for the truth, you don't form it, you uncover it. Then you find out what's your map. What's the belief systems that are telling you how to get those needs? Some people think the way to get those needs is destroy the world. Some people is to build something, create something, love someone. And then there's the fuel you pick. So very quickly, 6 needs, let me tell you what they are. First one, certainty. Now these are not goals or desires, these are universal. Everyone needs certainty that they can avoid pain, at least be comfortable. Now how do you get it? Control everybody, develop a skill, give up, smoke a cigarette. Now, if you got totally certain, ironically, even though we all need that, like you're not certain about your health or your children or money, you don't think about much, you're not sure the ceiling's gonna hold up, you're gonna listen to any speaker. But while we go for certainty differently, if we get total certainty, you get what? What do you feel if you're certain? You know what's gonna happen, when it's gonna happen, how it's gonna happen, what would you feel? Bored out of your mind. So God, in her infinite wisdom, gave us a second human need, which is uncertainty. We need variety. We need surprise. How many of you here love surprises? Say aye. You like the surprises you want. The ones you don't want, you call problems, but you need them. So variety is important. Have you ever rented a video or a film that you've already seen? Who's done this? Why are you doing it? You're certain it's good because you read it before, saw it before, but you're hoping it's been long enough you've forgotten enough there's variety. Third human need, critical, significance. We all need to feel important, special, unique. You can get it by making more money. You can do it by being more spiritual. You can do it by getting yourself in a situation where you put more tattoos and earrings in places humans don't want to know. Whatever it takes. The fastest way to do this, if you have no background, no culture, and no belief in resources or resourcefulness, is violence. If I put a gun to your head and I live in the hood, instantly I'm significant. 0 to 10, how high? 10. How certain am I you're going to respond to me? 10. How much uncertainty? Who knows what's gonna happen next? Kind of exciting. Like climbing up into a cave and doing that stuff all the way down there. Total variety and uncertainty. And it's significant, isn't it? So you're willing to risk your life for it. So that's why violence has always been around and will be around unless we have a consciousness change as a species. Now you can get significance a million ways, but to be significant, you gotta be unique and different. Here's what we really need. Connection and love, 4th need. We all want it. Most people settle for connection because love's too scary. Don't want to get hurt. Who here has ever been hurt in an intimate relationship? Say aye. And you're going to get hurt again. Aren't you glad you came to this positive visit? But here's what's true. We need it. We can do it through intimacy, through friendship, through prayer, through walking in nature. If nothing else works for you, get a dog. Don't get a cat, get a dog. Because if you leave for 2 minutes, it's like you've been gone for 6 months when you show back up again 5 minutes later, right? Now, these first 4 needs, every human finds a way to meet. Even if you lie to yourself, you need to split personalities. But the last 2 needs, the first 4 needs are called the needs of the personality, is what I call them. The last 2 are the needs of the spirit. And this is where fulfillment comes. You won't get fulfillment from the first 4. You'll figure a way, smoke, drink, do whatever, meet the first 4. But the last 2, number 5, you must grow. We all know the answer here. If you don't grow, you what? If a relationship's not growing, if a business is not growing, if you're not growing, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how many friends you have, how many people love you, you feel like hell. And the reason we grow, I believe, is so we have something to give of value. Because the 6th need is to contribute beyond ourselves. Because we all know, corny as it sounds, the secret of living's giving. We all know life's not about me, it's about we. This culture knows that, this room knows that. And it's exciting. When you see Nicholas up here talking about his $100 computer, the most passionate, exciting thing is here's a genius, but he's got a calling now. You can feel the difference in him. And it's in my own life. My life was touched because when I was 11 years old, Thanksgiving, no money, no food, and we're not gonna starve, but my father was totally messed up. My mom was letting him know how bad he messed up. And somebody came to the door and delivered food. My father made 3 decisions. I know what they were briefly. His focus was, this is charity. What does it mean? I'm worthless. What I gotta do? Leave my family, which he did. At the time, one of the most painful experiences of life. My 3 decisions gave me a different path. I said, focus on, there's food, what a concept. You know? Second, but this is what changed my life. This is what shaped me as a human being. Somebody's gift, I don't even know who it is. They're not asking for us, giving our family food, looking out for us. It made me believe this. What does it mean? That strangers care. And what that made me decide is strangers care about me and my family. I care about them. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna do something to make a difference. So when I was 17, I went out one day on Thanksgiving. It was my target for years. Have enough money to feed 2 families. The most fun thing I ever did in my life, the most moving. Then next year I did 4. And I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. Next year, 8. I wasn't doing it for brownie points, but after 8, I thought I could use some help. So sure enough, I went out, and what did I do? I got my friends involved, and I grew companies, and then I got 11 companies, and I built a foundation. And now, 18 years later, I'm proud to tell you, last year we fed 2 million people in 35 countries through our foundation, all during the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all the different countries around the world. It's been fantastic. Thank you. So I don't tell you that to brag, I tell you because I'm proud of human beings, because they get excited to contribute once they've had the chance to experience it and not talk about it. So finally, I'm about out of time, the target that shapes you, here's what's different about people. We have the same needs, but are you a certainty freak? Is that what you value most, or uncertainty? This man here couldn't be a certainty freak if he climbed through those caves. Are you driven by significance or love? We all need all 6, but whatever your lead system is tilts you in a different direction. And as you move in a direction, you have a destination or destiny. The second piece is the map. Think of that as the operating system tells you how to get there. And some people's map is, I'm gonna save lives even if I die for other people, and they're a fireman. Somebody else says, I'm gonna kill people to do it. They're trying to meet the same needs of significance, right? They want to honor God or honor their family, but they have a different map. And there are 7 different beliefs. I can't go through them because I'm done. The last piece is emotion. I say one of the parts of the map is like time. Some people's idea of a long time is 100 years. Somebody else says is 3 seconds, which is what I have. And the last one I've already mentioned that felt you. If you got a target and you got a map, and let's say, I can't use Google because I love Macs and they haven't made it good for Macs yet. So if you use MapQuest, how many have made this fatal mistake of using MapQuest at some time? You use this thing and you don't get there. Well, imagine if your beliefs guarantee you can never get to where you want to go. The last thing is emotion. Now here's what I'll tell you about emotion. There are 6,000 emotions that we all have words for in the English language, which is a linguistic representation, right? It changes by language. But if your dominant emotions, if I have more time, I have 20,000 people or 1,000, and I have them write down all the emotions that they experience in an average week. And I give them as long as they need. And on one side, they write empowering emotions, the other is disempowering. Guess how many emotions people experience? Less than 12. And half of those make them feel like... So they got 5 or 6 good freaking feelings, right? It's like they feel happy, excited, frustrated, overwhelmed, depressed. How many of you know somebody who no matter what happens finds a way to get pissed off? How many know somebody like this? Or no matter what happens, they find a way to be happy or excited. How many know somebody like this? Come on. When 9/11 happened, and I'll finish with this, I was in Hawaii. I was with 2,000 people from 45 countries. We were translating 4 languages simultaneously for a program that I was conducting for a week. The night before was called Emotional Mastery. I got up, had no plan for this, and I said, we had a list of fireworks, I do crazy fun stuff. And then at the end I stopped, I had this plan I was gonna say, but I never do what I'm gonna say. And all of a sudden I said, when do people really start to live? When they face death. And then I went this whole thing about if you were gonna get off this island, if 9 days from now you were gonna die, who would you call, what would you say, what did you do? One woman, well that night was when 9/11 happened. One woman had come to the seminar, and when she came there, her previous boyfriend had been kidnapped and murdered. Her friend, or her new boyfriend, wanted to marry her, and she said no. He said, if you leave and go to the Hawaii thing, it's over with it. She said it's over. When I finished that night, she called him and left a message, true story, at the top of the World Trade Center where he worked, saying, honey, I love you. I just want you to know, I want to marry you. It was stupid of me. She was asleep, because it was 3 a.m. for us, when he called her back from the top and said, honey, I can't tell you what this means. He said, I don't know how to tell you this, but you give me the greatest gift because I'm going to die. And she played the recording for us in the room. She was on Larry King later. And he said, you're probably wondering how on earth this could happen to you twice. And he said, all I can say to you is, this must be God's message to you, honey. From now on, every day, give your all, love your all. Don't let anything ever stop you. She finishes, and a man stands up and he says, I'm from Pakistan, I'm a Muslim. I'd love to hold your hand and say I'm sorry, but frankly, this is retribution. I can't tell you the rest because I'm out of time. 10 seconds. 10 seconds. No, I want to be respectful. 10 seconds. All I can tell you is I brought this man on stage with a man from New York who worked in the World Trade Center, because I had about 200 New Yorkers there. More than 50 lost their entire companies, their friends, marking off their Palm Pilots. One financial trader, this woman made of steel, bawling. 30 friends crossing off that all died. And what I did to people is said, what are we going to focus on? What does this mean? What are we going to do? And I took the group and got people to focus on, if you didn't lose somebody today, your focus is going to be how to serve somebody else. There are people, one woman got up and she was so angry and screaming and yelling. Then I found she wasn't from New York, she's not an American, she doesn't know anybody here. I said, you always get angry? She said, yes. Guilty people got guilty, sad people got sad. And I took these two men and did what I call an indirect negotiation. Jewish man with family in the occupied territory, some New York who would have died if he was at work that day. And this man who wanted to be a terrorist, and made it very clear. And the integration that happened is on a film, which I'll be happy to send you, so you can really see what actually happened instead of my verbalization of it. But the two of them not only came together and changed their beliefs and models of the world, but they worked together to bring, for almost 4 years now, to various mosques and synagogues, the idea of how to create peace. And he wrote a book, which is called My Jihad, My Way of Peace. So transformation can happen. So my invitation to you is this. Explore your web, the web in here. The needs, the beliefs, the emotions that are controlling you, for two reasons. So there's more of you to give. Achieve too. We all want to do that, but I mean give. So that's what's going to fill you up. And secondly, so you can appreciate, not just understand, that's intellectual, that's mind, but appreciate what's driving other people. It's the only way our world's going to change. God bless you. Thank you. I hope this will serve.
Tony Robbins.